白岩学園3年 B 組の皆さん、こんにちは。
はい、こんにちは。
Good morning. Let's see here. It is fabulous Saturday night, and today I actually don't have any topic. Today's been a weird day for me in general, for reasons. All of them personal and utterly irrelevant. That said, I have been in this weird mindset. I don't know what to call it, but I've been bouncing back and forth between being, because there are issues with your focus, with one's focus. If one is myopic in thinking, it's very easy to get despondent about some of the things that are going on, and I will completely admit that sometimes I do allow myself to get despondent. I allow myself to get myopic, and I value silly things like comfort and so on, which I know I should not do that. I'm completely cognizant. And at the same time, I have been noticing that there are so many people that are coming online, catching on, they're noticing. It's amazing, and I like it. it's all, now, of course, a lot of this stuff is filtered. These are things that we are seeing, and it's not always, like, sometimes you even have to, like, infer things. The ADDL, they are clamping hardcore on anyone that is white, racially conscious, and interested in preserving their own in-group. And the hysteria with which they are acting in their clampdowns suggests that they're afraid, which means we're actually in a good spot overall. This is excellent news. Absolutely excellent news. So today, in keeping with attempting to be as, optimistic? I don't want to be artificially optimistic, because I don't think that's good. I like to be as reasonable and level-headed as possible, but yeah, I'm actually, it's hard to explain. There are multiple channels that I go to, lots of boomer channels, weirdly. I mean, the gun community is largely a bunch of boomers, with a couple of Gen Xers, very few millennials, very, very few millennials. But the gun channels, I've actually noticed, they've been pretty freaking based, like, overall. And I don't know if we can say that the boomers are starting to wake up. I really don't know. But at least with regards to a comprehension that the radicals, yeah, that's right, Jonathan Pohl is a Gen Xer. And what do we know about Gen Xers? Gen Xers are always going to be sort of pink-pilled. Fortunately, Jonathan Pohl is completely blue-pilled. Thank God. Anyhow, the boomers are, like, if nothing else, they are aware of what's going on within the radical wing of the DNC with regards to the firearms question. Interestingly, one of the reasons that I harp on firearms so much is because firearms is basically a white man thing. It really is, in its essence, a white man thing, just in terms of raw demographics, just what the general patterns will show. And they're starting to catch on. They're actually starting to catch on. And apparently the South Carolinians, they are so adamant about it that they're threatening to freaking secede from the Union. So, I mean, I don't know how seriously one can take that, but if nothing else, the spirit is there, which is outstanding. Missouri fully legalized the Second Amendment, so Missouri is looking pretty good. There are multiple sanctuary cities, sanctuary counties within the United States that are interested in shielding and sheltering we wayward firearms owners. So all we have to do is find sanctuary counties, and we will have refuge. We will have places that we can go. And I think this is all good news, because even though the I guess they are still blue-pilled normies, the blue-pilled normie conservatives they're starting to get an inkling of what's happening. They're starting to get an understanding. So I think we should be finding ways to foment that. I think we should be finding ways to make inroads. And one of the things that I like to do is, and I do this now and again on Twitter and on YouTube comments sections, where, like in regular firearms channels or Twitter accounts, they'll talk about how, oh my gosh, the Dems are coming after our guns and blah blah blah, and I will simply make mention, okay, so 70% of Mexicans vote for the Democrats. For demographic reasons, Texas goes blue in 2024, and all that implies. Whites become a permanent minority in America in Texas goes blue in 2024. Whites become a permanent minority in 2045, which means that Mexicans, 70% of them will vote for Democrats. Mexicans can vote your Second Amendment protections away. Once you start to frame it in such stark terms, the first thing they'll do is call you a racist. It's the number one thing they're going to do, because they're freaking cucks, which sucks, but whatever. The second thing is they get to sit and chew on it. So I think that things are moving in good directions. Yeah, sure, great. We can find ways to help people to understand a little bit better what's in store for them. So that's just what's on my mind today. And while I was going to read some Maimonides today, but my mind is not fully functioning at all. I can't really do it. So instead, I think what I'm going to do is, let's see here, yes, I'm going to go over there. I am going to generate a hangout, is what I'm going to do. And tonight's going to be, let's see, where are we? There we are. Tonight's going to be kind of a shorter stream, but I'm going to throw a link over to Jonathan Pohl. Maybe he can hop on for a couple of minutes. We shall see. Where are we? There we are. For some reason my computer is just taking forever, which is terrible. There we are. Yes. Yes. Work. And finally, yes. There we are. Okay, now we go over to, God, everything takes me forever now. This is awful. Where are we? Jonathan Pohl. We now send a link. Boom. Alright, Jonathan. If you've got the ability to wander over, is Norman a big show now? Is that what's going on? Here, let's go check out Norman for a second while we wait for if Jonathan Pohl can pop by. If he can, let's see. Norman is, where is he? Oh, would you look at that? He is a big guy now, doing quite a lot of things, all of which are very, very important. Okay, there we go. Oh, that's funny. Alright, that's funny. I'm gonna give Norman Hobbs a like. So there we go. Anyhow. Oh, nice. Jonathan Pohl can pop by. Well, that's just outstanding. So anyway, coming all the way back, I think that things are kind of moving in a good direction on a net level, even though there are lots of hiccups and bumps and whatnot. I do think that there's going to be some rough stuff, but so long as we keep our heads above water, I think we're going to be fine. The big deal in the near future, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but the big deal in the near future is actually just going to be trying to maintain our demographics as best as is possible. And by that I mean being in, I guess I want to say being in a homeland. I'm not sure what to call it at the moment. America doesn't really feel like a homeland per se. America has always felt like this kind of weird, because like I'm an American, but like at the same time, like this is not where my people are from. Like we're from Europe, so I've always had this sort of peculiar half in, half out feeling with regards to America. But at any rate, so long as we can keep places like perhaps the Appalachian chain all the way from Newfoundland down to, gosh, I guess the Carolinas or something, I think we should be fine. So long as we can keep the majority of Europe, I think we should be fine. I think we may end up losing a little bit of Europe. I think we might lose one or two countries in Europe, which sucks. I mean, think about Spain. They are basically right back where they were in the mid-1400s. The only difference is that they've allowed them in completely. I mean, but then again, they kind of did in the 14. Well, no, it was a hard invasion. What is it, in 870 or whatever? Like maybe it was 925. I forget. Somewhere in that area, like the early 900s is when the Saracens really made a go of the Iberian Peninsula. But yeah, that was a hard invasion. As where now Spain is suffering an unarmed invasion, but it's not just Spain, it's like all of Europe. Anyway, the thing is that as long as we can keep our demographics in a lot of the countries, we should be fine. With the invasions that were happening in Europe during the medieval period, a lot of that was, a lot of that was 100% foreign into completely unoccupied territories. So it was just like roving warrior bands or something. And we don't seem to have anything like that right now. It's quite the opposite. They're actually walking in Trojan horse style, which is going to be a bit of a thing, but whatever. Anyway, looks like we've got Jonathan Pohl in here, so let me transition over. And okay, buddy, how you doing? All right.
I'm good.
Let me have one more hello just to make sure that I've got the volume proper. Like, how's it going, man?
Alright, good. Guten Abend.
Yeah, guten nicht? How do you say good night? Or good evening?
Guten Nacht, but that's like the end of the night. You would say good evening. Guten Abend.
Guten Abend.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, fair enough. Guten Abend. So, yeah, how's it going, man? How's your Saturday going?
It was pretty good today.
Yeah?
Did some reading. Had some ribs. Didn't do anything particularly productive, but got some washta finally. So my
Some what?
TV is influence, intermediate networking.
Nice.
So my CV is circulating around in semi-important people in DC now.
Outstanding. Is that gonna be? Is that gonna get you like a gig or something? Or
The hope is it might get me a gig at a think tank. Yeah.
nice. That means you'll be able to sell toothpaste with the best of them.
Maybe. But, I need to get a job so I can sponsor my wife over and my daughter home here.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah, that's really important. Yeah, that'd be really kick butt. Well, dude, I wish you all the best on that. I'm pulling for you.
Yeah, so it was a pretty good day. Didn't have any problems.
Yeah.
But, it was hot here.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess this is gonna be sort of a Gamora stream for just a moment. Yeah, it was flippin' warm today, dude. It was actually so hot that I ended up turning on my air conditioning unit. I mean, ungodly hot. That's all.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
I did a stream today on Islamic slavery.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now, my understanding is that the Saracens, they had this big thing with taking in slaves from Europe. So obviously you must have talked about
Most
that.
of the slaves were African. They took in about 2 to 2.5 million from southern Europe from the Barbary pirates, and then there was an additional, I don't know how many, taken in from mainly Ukraine, but also Russia and Poland from the Crimean Khanate. But most of the slaves, we're talking maybe as many as 25 million, came from sub-Saharan Africa.
Jeez, how did they prevent interbreeding?
They castrated all the men.
Fair enough. Okay, so what about the women?
There was some inbreeding, but not a lot. It turned out that effectively castrating all the men prevented any large black diaspora from developing in the Middle East.
Jeez. That's really hardcore, man. That's like super duper hardcore. Alright. Well, I guess that answers that. One can't help but wonder if the white genes, how many of them filtered into Arabia. There must be a population that did, right?
Some. I mean, but there was also castration of the white slaves too.
Well, but of the women, I mean, wouldn't they have children with their slave women?
Yeah. Yeah. So you ever watch? There's a really good Turkish soap opera. It goes on forever. It's called The Magnificent Century, after Suleiman the Magnificent.
Yeah.
But his favorite wife was, I believe, Ukrainian, and she has red hair and green eyes. But a whole bunch of plots in the harem regarding circulating around her. So yeah, there is particularly in Turkey, something like a third of the population of Turkey have ancestry from the Balkans and the Caucasus.
Gosh.
Yeah, so the Janissaries, for instance, this elite infantry unit, they were all taken from Christian families in the Balkans, Serbia, Bulgaria, Greece, and then raised as Muslims and made into soldiers for the Sultan.
Jeez, man.
It was called the Devshirima, but it's the child levy.
What does dervish mean, by the way?
Well, a dervish is a type of Sufi mystic.
Right. Well, I was wondering if there was an etymology that you knew about.
My Turkish is bad. I know the word Sufi comes from the word for wool. Suf is wool.
Wool?
Okay, according to Walrus, libertarian dervish means poor one.
Huh.
Yeah, but the Sufi comes from the word for wool. Yeah, like because they wore wool garments.
All right, fair enough. So, with the slave trade, is that still going on now?
Yes, particularly in Libya.
Yeah.
brought to us by Obama and Hillary. The new trans-Saharan slave trade has popped up in Libya, but it never was eliminated in Mauritania, despite being officially abolished 3 times, and it's existed in Sudan still.
Now, how do the slave owners how do they keep the slaves in line? What I mean is, like, because it just seems like, it seems weird. Now, of course, you know, I live in Los Angeles, and I'm about to say, how do they keep them in line? Meanwhile, I don't dare talk about race realism in public, so I guess that's kind of an answer in itself.
Well, you know, it's hereditary, so it's kind of classes. So in Mauritania, so you know, basically, it's just internalized that the white people are the slave owners and the black people are the slaves in Mauritania.
Really, they just think like that over there, then?
Oh, I mean, I've never been to Mauritania, but yeah, it hasn't, they haven't been able to root it out.
So it's still now, and my understanding is that it still exists in, like, Syria or whatever, right? There's still like.
I don't think so. Well, I mean, maybe it's made a comeback in the Civil War, but I would think that the neo-Baathists would have stomped it out.
Okay.
In the 70s under Old Man Assad, they were quite
well, I'm thinking
modernist in their perceptions of how society should be organized.
Right, but I'm thinking of the Islamic State.
Oh yeah, but that would be a comeback. So I mean, that wouldn't have been still exist. That would have been made a comeback. Yes, that has occurred. But that's again fairly recent. In Mauritania, I know it never was eliminated.
Because half of me wonders if it might be worth it to talk about these kinds of things, like, openly and in public, and the idea is to get the uninitiated to understand that there really is there is a slave trade going on, and, you know, the people that are engaging in that, they're being brought here to America, and we have to stop it. You know, I'm thinking about ways to, I guess, open up the channels for, like, discussion or something.
Okay. I didn't realize they were closed.
Well, for discussion, I guess they are. I mean, it's hard to communicate to progressives. Hard to communicate with them, I should say.
Oh, I don't even try. But I think tonight's show went pretty well. I mean, it's a huge topic because slavery in the Islamic world geographically is far south of Mozambique on the east coast of Africa. As far north is you know, they made slave raids from all the way into Iceland once.
Iceland?
Yeah, they hit Iceland once, and they hit Ireland once.
Jeez, dude. Well, then again, no, that kind of makes sense, because what is it, the Black Irish? I remember hearing about those. You know what the Black Irish, right?
Well, this was to take European slaves back to North Africa, but
right, but they okay, so the Black Irish are, like, sort of darkish skinned Irish. I heard about this when I was a little kid. They are Irish people that are slightly darker skinned, and this is because apparently there were instances back during the medieval period of the Saracens going from Spain to Ireland for reasons, and they would interbreed with some of the Irish people. So there are little vestiges somewhere in there.
possible. But this was much. But the what I was the raid I was talking about later. This was to take Irish slaves back to North Africa to use as galley slaves mostly.
What dicks. That's terrible. Yeah, well, yeah, I keep thinking that it might be a good idea to just talk about it so that regular people know that it's still continuing. Well, anyway, so your focus was on, was it on just things that were happening back in the,
No, I tried to give like a big overview, kind of, the geographical position. So, they said, Africa, Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, and then of course there were raids into the Turkmen. Took slaves from Iran under the pretext that the Persians weren't real Muslims, so they could enslave them and sell them to the Khanate of Khiva and the Emir of Buhara. And there were slaves sent from East Africa as far east as to what is today Malaysia and Indonesia, which had a variety of Muslim political entities, various little emirates and sultanates. So we're talking, the whole of the Indian Ocean, a big chunk of Eastern and Southern Europe, almost all of Africa, and then the Middle East and India involved. So, of course, tens of millions of people. And as I said, you still have it in Mauritania, Sudan, and it's been revived in Libya.
I love that it's going. I mean, not. I don't. Okay, I'm gonna rescind that word, but it's a hell of a thing that it's going on in Libya of all places.
Okay.
Well, Libya, that was supposed to be the place where they're going to free the American slaves back into Africa.
That's Liberia.
Oh.
Libya is where Gaddafi was killed.
Right. I'm an idiot and I forgot things. Son of a bitch. That's
Liberia is over in West Africa.
Right.
On the Atlantic Ocean, and Libya is in the middle of North Africa, just south of Italy across the Mediterranean.
Yeah, no, I remember now. I'm only half awake. That's so funny.
That's okay.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
But anyways, because I had a lot of requests to cover it when I brought it up briefly on my stream with the history of Africa, and I dealt a lot with the transatlantic slave trade on that one because it was kind of basically a history of the relationship of Africa to global homo, but people wanted to know its relationship to global Islamo, or whatever you call it.
Yeah. So what's one of the I've missed like every stream except for like 2 for the past week.
I've only been doing one every Saturday, and the last one was a pretty short one.
Oh, okay. Well, so what's one of the links from the Islamic world into global homo?
Well, I don't know. The links are fairly recent. I mean, one of the things is that the Muslims are a competitor system to global homo, just as the communists were.
How do you mean?
I mean, that they have their own system that has a separate set of values from global homo. That's been changing, but at the time of their height, the Ottomans, and in particular, but also the Safavids and the Qajars in Iran, were pretty good at resisting the corruption of global homo.
Are they not good at it anymore?
The global homo has made inroads.
Really? How?
Yeah. You haven't been to the Middle East, have you? You will see that consumerism is a very, very big thing. You'll see the same types of sexualized fashion among women, but to a lesser extent in the Islamic world. You'll see the same, kind uh, of degradation overall of the culture into just basically mindless consumerism.
Oh God, those poor bastards. That sucks. Well, I hope they find a way to get rid of it somehow. Okay, so are there so with regards to the global homoization of the Middle East, is there any pushback, and if so, what does it look like? How is it
Well, there are different
manifested?
types of pushbacks. There's a type of pushback that is very ugly. The types of Salafist organizations like ISIS, or as they call it in Arabic, Daesh.
Yeah.
So you have these kind of reactionary, extremist movements. But you also, I think, you have some positive. I mean, there was a lot going on. The idea of trying to construct a usable Kurdish nationalism that would maintain Kurdish traditions and Kurdish culture in the face of the problems of being surrounded by greater enemies, but also, of course, the ever presence of global homo to kind of replace tradition with crap. So there's a big movement to maintain like traditional music and traditional dance against the type of crap that's produced by
Well, that's okay. I think we're back.
not yet.
Yeah.
Now we are.
Well, that's upsetting. Anyhow, yeah, I keep wishing that there was something like that, like a movement to traditional music here in America that didn't seem like it was like lame or artificial or whatever.
Yeah. Or even worse, the revised. I notice a lot of these like progressives. They try and take the traditional stuff and reinterpret it. Oh yeah, yeah. Our forefathers were all socialists. Don't you know that?
Yeah. I hear that all the time. The back in the late 2000s into the early 20 teens, there was this big thing with whistling and ukuleles and xylophones. And it's like they were trying to recreate little kid music, but use it for like adult commercials or whatever. It was really weird.
Oh, okay. I was thinking more like there was that whole movement. Maybe before your time. I think it was late '80s, early '90s that started this type of really left-wing in terms of the lyrics and politics, but attempting to kind of use the kind of musical structures of like old country music and the bluegrass and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know of that exact movement that you're talking about, but that's the kind of thing that I would expect to be made. That makes, because in the late 90s there was a television program called AMP on MTV. I loved it. That was a great show. In terms of music selection, they had great taste in music, and they were, of course, fucking hyper lefties. So there's a lot of pause in there, a lot of globo homo. I get it. I genuinely do understand it. but whatever. Anyway, they put out a couple of compilation albums of, just the people that they would play on the television show for the first one, which, by the way, was an outstanding album. And then the second one, Amp 2, that one was a cash grab, and a shitty cash grab. And what they did was, it was not unlike the Spawn soundtrack. I don't know if anyone remembers that Spawn, like 1996 or something. And the Spawn soundtrack, they decided they were going to pair the up-and-coming... No, it wouldn't have been 96, it would have been 97 or 98. The Spawn soundtrack, they were pairing up, like, rock and roll people with, at the time, big hits in the electro community. So, oh god, like, people like Howie B, people like Goldie. These names don't mean anything anyway. Now they don't. In the Amp 2 CD, they decided that they were going to pair up a lot of hip-hop people, a couple of rock people, and electro people. So they're going to they had Prodigy remixing something, or Prodigy doing a track with Cool Keith. Again, these are names that don't mean anything anymore, but it was amusing at the time. And what they were trying to do is a combination. They wanted to do a cash grab, and at the same time, they also wanted to throw in indoctrination language and rhetoric. And I didn't notice it. Like, I kind of noticed it, but not really. Like, I recognized that there was something behind the music that felt false. There's something behind the music that felt like an agenda, and I recognized it, and it came off as not good. There were only like a couple of tracks on the second one that I liked. I got it more reflexively than anything, but the net results of it was I loved electro. I still do.
You should check out. There's currently going on just a huge wave of Russian synth music. I link to it all the time in my Twitter feed, but probably the most famous aren't even Russian. They're from Belarus, Malchat Doma.
Yeah.
But there's some others that are fantastic as well. I mean, this is stuff they're recording currently in Russia and Belarus.
Okay, but just to finish up on AMP, though, they were trying to go for the communist stuff. They were trying to front load communism and progressivism and SJWism way back in 1998. They were that forward thinking.
Late. I don't know if you remember. It would have been the late 80s. There was a kind of a big country western renewal, and so there's Garth Brooks with like his first album comes out, and it's about drinking in dive bars and kind of typical country western themes, and then he starts doing all these songs about gay rights and all these progressive things, right? But it's still like traditional country western kind of structure, but now the lyrics have become totally paused.
I wonder who produced it.
I don't know, but I mean, he had the one big hit, "Friends in Low Places," and then he started doing songs. I can't remember the one about gay and lesbian. I think it's "Born to Be Free."
Jeez. Well, what do you say? It's Signs and Wonders.
Now, that was in the late 80s, and that was significant because that was not only a revival of country western, but really the first time it really became big in urban areas like New York City.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, Walrus Libertarian. Garth betrayed us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a lot of them did. then again, some of them were always sellouts from the beginning. We just didn't know it until they did. Yeah. Well, anyhow, Jonathan, Paul, I'm actually I'm borderline falling asleep as I speak these sentences.
Alright, I will go and check out Vakaday Respector's late night e-drama stream going on.
Really, there's another one. Nice. Well, I might check that out. If anyone has, can you put a link in the chat for that?
Yeah, let me get to it.
Yeah, because I don't know if I'm.
This is one of the problems. All of the old school intellectuals and scholars like myself don't know how to use anything more technological than a rotary phone.
Let's see here. I think I've got that correct. Look at that. There's a full-on stream going on. That's amazing. Torque power. What he's doing graphs for what? Like
Okay, there's a link to
car talk or something? Weird.
I don't know, I don't have the sound on that one.
Yeah, I'm not listening to the sound either. Anything could be going on.
You've got some comic books out there.
Yeah, well, it looks like it's he's restreaming that one guy, the comics book guy. Yeah, I can't. The stream is skipping around, so it doesn't really matter. But anyhow, there's a guy that does reviews of comic books, and he'll frequently have the phone pointed down at the comic book while he's reading it on his lap, and that's exactly what it looks like. So
I got a comic book I could review.
Yeah, what is it?
I got here. This is Joe Sacco's Palestine, and it's
Nice.
a graphic novel about Israeli oppression in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. I think this came out in the 90s, but I bought this with they put them all together. There's like 12 of them. I bought this in London.
Dude, I would. You should totally review that. That'd be great.
So if you can see some of the pictures, like here's the first panel was in Cairo.
Dude, you should review that.
So yeah, he went there and did kind of like a graphic novel account of his time in the occupied West Bank and Gaza Strip, interviewing Palestinians. But he's got all kinds of interesting stuff on here. Like here's a section on the Israeli concentration camp Anzar 4, I think it is.
Yeah, you should full on.
Anzar 3. I'm sorry. Anzar 4 is a different concentration camp.
Yeah. Well, whether you do a full review on the whole compendium, or even just a general discussion on the concepts, yeah, it'd be cool, man. Comic books from elsewhere.
Well, this guy is from the U.S., but his mother's from Malta. And his father is Japanese American.
Okay.
And he also did one on Yugoslavia during the war. I don't know what else he's done, but this won a book award in 1996.
Yeah.
And then he won another award for the one in Yugoslavia in 2001. And this was put out in 2003. So even this version is fairly old.
Yeah, there's no way that you would get a copyright strike on that. You should do it.
No. I gotta go reread it. It's fairly lengthy. I think I think it was 12, 6 on West Bank and 6 on Gaza.
You should do it.
Okay.
Just make it happen.
All right. All right. We'll do that. But it's the problem with doing anything on the PQ is it sets up the algorithm for the Hasbara trolls.
Oh yeah. Fair enough. Okay, well, I'm sorry to say, but like I'm legit falling asleep right now, so
No problem.
I think I'm gonna call a stream. Sorry about being kind of a wet blanket, but there it is. I'm just tired. Anyway, thanks for popping on, man.
No problem.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll see you. I kind of want to do. I miss those streams where it was you and James chit-chatting about stuff. I don't know why, but I really like
James
those.
on my streams on Saturday,
Yeah.
and then I go on his stream on Sunday.
Okay, cool. Then I'll check it out. Yeah.
So it's down to 2 a week. One I host and one he hosts. But
Right,
it's
right.
Still going on.
Okay. Well, I miss the ones where they're like sporadic through the week. That was always really funny for me. But yeah.
Well, you know, I haven't. I don't have the same situation where I can do it every night and
Yeah.
on Moscow time.
So it goes. All right. Well, at any rate, I'll be checking out your and so you're gonna be on James's stream tomorrow.
Yeah, it will be. It should start around 8 Pacific time.
8 o'clock Pacific time. Okay.
Yeah. So I think he starts at 11 his time, something like that.
All right. Well, then I'll check it out, man.
No, it'll be at night, but
Yeah. No, I'll totally check it out. It sounds cool. All right, man. I'm gonna.
We'll have to get together for more unkosher food sometime.
We should. Like, in all honesty, actually, let's get in touch in the near future on that one. Actually, no. You know what? Stay in the stay in your
lane, Goy.
Oh God, I can't handle that. Stay in the window, the chat window, while I close out the stream, and we can chit chat about it. All right, cheers, buddy. That was Jonathan Pohl, great big fan, and there you go. Thank you everyone for popping by, all 7 of you. And oh hey Marge, how's it going, buddy? Citizen reporter, walrus, a law libertarian, ruiner. Cheers, guys. Sorry for not having any kind of like a fancy dancy super stream for today lined up, but yeah, my sleep schedule has been it's been deteriorating, so that's my bad. Hopefully I'll be able to do some more fun stuff later on. So this is what happens. Real life happens. Anyhow, thanks again for popping by, and I think I'm going to play an album because I have a couple of things that I have to do immediately before going to bed. So yeah, I'm going to play an album as I do my normal routines. And yeah, I didn't do any case streaming today, but we'll pretend that I did for just a moment. The Second Amendment is still under attack by the progressives and the radicals within the DNC, and I think this is something we need to take seriously. We should be exercising our God-given right to self-defense. If you do not have a plinker, one of the few things that I will exhort and extol is the beauties of your constitutionally protected right to keep and bear arms. Get out there and plink. And when you do so, do have in mind the 4 rules of firearm safety firmly in mind as you safely handle your firearm. Rule number 1, never cover or sweep anything that you are not willing to destroy. Rule number 2, never cover or sweep. I'm sorry. Rule number one is always treat every firearm like it's loaded. This is how tired I am. That's very embarrassing. Rule number 1, always treat every firearm like it is loaded. There we are. Rule number 2, never cover or sweep anything that you are not willing to destroy. Rule number 3, always keep your finger off of the trigger until your sights are on target. And the 4th and final rule is be aware of your target and what's beyond it, safety first. And I suppose maybe a 6th rule, don't handle them when you're exhausted and on the verge of REM sleep. Anyhow, thank you again for popping by, and remember to floss. This album is, I believe it's called Fuji, and it has kind of a calm trues feel about it. I just happen to like the way that it sounds. It's a little bit predictable, but it's pleasant, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with having a predictable and pleasant album. So here we are. This is Fuji, and I'll see everyone in the chats. Cheers.